What is up, everyone? It's only been like 2 weeks, but we are back for a brand new season of The Bachelor. Tasha's season just ended. We're on the heels of, in my opinion, the best Bachelorette that I've ever watched. And I think that Tasha has left some huge shoes to fill for Matt James. Now, Matt James is someone who doesn't have a history with Bachelor Nation, but he does have some connections. He's friends with Tyler C. If you follow Tyler C on any sort of social media, I'm sure you've seen pictures of Matt James in the past. Before he was announced. And if you're a fan of The Bachelor, you've probably seen lots of him in the past few months leading up to The Bachelor. So we really opened up with trying to learn a little bit more about Matt James. And here is the basic breakdown of what I learned. So if you were ever to try to create a fake persona on, say, a dating website or Tinder or whatever you were going on, and you just made up all these outlandish, ridiculous things to manufacture the perfect guy, that's Matt James. When I first heard him announced, was not really on board with it. I was thinking, if you're going to go outside the franchise, why not go after a little bit more star power? We've had lots of like former NFL players, college football players. Like there's a pretty heavy connection between the NFL and the Bachelor Nation. So why not fish from there to grab a potential Bachelor? But then I got thinking about it more, and really, he ticks all the boxes on what you would want in a future partner, at least on paper. And the more I got thinking about it, the more I got on board with Matt James as the Bachelor. He is a very good looking man to start off with. I think that's a basic prerequisite for the show. Very giving, very kind, does tons of charity work in New York, spends lots of time giving kids experiences they otherwise wouldn't be able to get without someone like him around to offer those. And he seems like he's extremely close with his mom, and just overall just a very nice guy. The more I see about him, the more I like him, and the more I understand why he was selected at The Bachelor. One thing that immediately stood out to me about this season is you look at the last quarantine season, the location versus Matt James' season location, and they are just like night and day. La Quinta, it kind of felt cheap and cheesy and was just a place that would allow them to film. And then I don't exactly know where they are, somewhere in northeastern United States, and they're in like this ridiculously beautiful location. It just looks like this massive swanky mansion, and already the season has a different vibe than it did when we kicked things off in La Quinta. We had a ton of women tonight. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them because we got to meet 32 new women tonight, but I did have a few that stood out to me. Let's start with the first impressions. And immediately someone who stood out at the start was Abigail. She's telling her story about being born deaf, and we immediately got that light on her, and later on in the episode she gets the first impression rose. Sarah, another individual who was really singled out. She's a broadcaster or a former broadcaster who is father has ALS and has moved home to be a caregiver for him. She seemed to like she got a little bit of extra time. Another person was Chelsea. I would have to say probably best dress of the night. I don't know what anybody else's opinions out there, but visually absolutely gorgeous. and looked like, at least in the previews, that she is going to get some quality time with Matt. Alana, she got the first kiss, even though it was she used a little bit of a gimmick there. She used a little bit of Lady and Tramp spaghetti technique to suck Matt in to get that first little kiss. I wouldn't call it the first real kiss, but she does have lays claim to the first kiss of the season. Kaylee, she's the one who came out in the lingerie and asked Matt to pick her dress for her. When I originally saw it on the preview, I thought, oh, this is going to be ridiculous. This is just going to be an excuse for somebody to show off their body. But in the end, it turned out not a bad little gimmick as far as gimmicks go. Matt helps choose her dress, and I felt that she actually could have taken a little further and had Matt maybe help her zip up the back. Katie, I think we all remember Katie, or maybe we don't remember Katie, but we remember what she brought with her, and that was a vibrator, which she later named MJ, to the displeasure of MJ. So now we have MJ1, who's a real live human being, and MJ2, who is Katie's vibrator, which apparently she's open to sharing with whoever her roommate ends up being. That's going to be it for just the people who stood out on that first impression, the first introduction. And then we got into Matt actually being able to have conversations with the women. And I wrote down 3 names that stood out to me as Rachel, Bree, and Abigail. This was all what I wrote down during the episode. And then of those 3, Abigail gets the first impression rose, Bree gets the first rose at the rose ceremony, and Rachel gets the second rose at the rose ceremony. I really liked Matt and Abigail's connection tonight. It felt very genuine, and Abigail really lit up just when she was talking about him, thinking about him, everything. And that really puts a smile on my face when I'm watching it, because it comes off to me as genuine. Rachel, immediate connection with Matt, and just somebody who really stood out to me. And of course, Bree, another person, just immediate connection as soon as they started talking. And those were the 3 people who really stood out to me in a positive way. Of course, there was one who stood out to me in a negative way. I don't think anybody is going to be surprised here. That is Victoria. I don't know why every season we have this person who is very clear that production said, hey, Matt, you have to give a rose to Victoria. I don't see any point to keeping her around outside of drama. And I guess that is part of the show. So Victoria sticks around for drama. The previews were a lot to take in. One thing that really stood out was obviously Heather from Colton's season, aka Never Been Kissed, who got her first kiss on The Bachelor. She shows up to the mansion and looks like she actually joins the show. So, it's not going to be as simple as she showed up, because there's quarantine and testing in order to come on. So obviously something planned by the producers, and I'm interested to see how that goes down. I don't totally remember her entirely from the season, but I remember liking her. So, anytime they bring back somebody who I liked, why not? Bring them back. Have them on the show. I'm not opposed to having former contestants getting a second shot. I'm not opposed to Nick Viall coming back for a 3rd time if he wants a shot with Matt James. I'm totally cool with that. And if it makes for good TV, why not? If it makes for a good love story, why not? Let's do it. So I'm very excited for this season of The Bachelor. The more I get to know about Matt, the more I like him. And, liking The Bachelor, that is a good thing. I look back to Peter's season, he was an absolute dud of a Bachelor. And I think that the series really needs a home run. even on the back of how great Tayshia's season was, I still think that the series needs a home run. So on top of that, that's going to wrap things up for me tonight. That's going to be it for week 1 of Matt James' season of The Bachelorette. I will be back again next week.